My name is Tom Sobocinski. I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners here of Black Hog Brewing. I handle a lot of our label registration and distribution and sales.
Tyler Jones, master brewer, one of the other co-founders here at Black Hog. I deal with everything on the liquid side. My joking title is Lord of the Liquids, so anything that has to do with the beer is kind of on my shoulders.
So we have a bunch of fun products. We have 7 core beers now. We have our Hog Lager Pilsner. We have a new Black Hog IPA that just came out. We have our award-winning Granola Brown Ale, our Coffee Milk Stout, Hog Water IPA, our Piglet Double IPA. What am I forgetting?
That's the core at the moment, yeah.
So the TTB, it's a federal organization that regulates all of the brewers and alcohol manufacturers in the country. So beer, wine, spirits. They also cover firearms and tobacco, although I'm not familiar with that side of things. So every brewery, when they open, has to do a brewer's notice to the TTB, which is a very, very thick form with lots of paperwork. Once you get your brewer's notice, you then need to register each of your beer labels and keg collars with the TTB, and you also have to report your federal excise tax back to them. So we are very creative, and we like to come out with new beers sort of last minute. So I usually count on the TTB to turn our beer labels around in about 2 weeks. We obviously didn't anticipate the shutdown, so we had put a few labels in right before the shutdown, and we never got those labels back. So a few of the beers had to get pushed back in the schedule and sort of get reconfigured. We're also doing some consulting on a brewery project in New Haven called The Stack, and we were waiting for approval for a new brewery down there, and I was going back and forth with the agent, and then they shut down. So we also got delayed there. So, so definitely for beers and for some brewing stuff, there was a bit of a delay.
I mean, something mentioned on that too. We're talking about getting the physical label approved on the can itself, which is like, oh great, whatever. But like, beer is food product. It's perishable, so we want to make sure that the second we're making it, it's going out the door. So getting this label approval is like the first that starts the snowball effect of, all right, we have a label approval. That means we can order cans. What's the lead time on that? All right, then I know when I can actually start producing the beer, because there's a lead time on how long it takes the beer to produce, so that everything's in-house, ready to go, beer's finished, it gets packaged, it goes out the door, because the second that's packaged, a timer starts where that beer is going bad. So it's something where we really have been trying to stay on top of it, of making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row before the beer goes into production, because that's just a lot of wasted beer. It has to go down the drain if we can't package it. So it is. A lot of people don't understand that there is a process beyond just like, oh, it's just a label, it's just a can. But yeah, that label being approved so that we can actually sell it puts everything else into effect of actually producing the beer and when it comes out and timing wise. So just wanted to mention that on the production side of it.
So specifically, we submitted a lot of our labels for 2019. So some of our Q1 beers have now been pushed back. So it took, instead of getting our approval by like the end of December, it was pretty much the end of January. So then I had to order, once label was approved, I had to order cans, which can be about a 5-week lead time on wrapped cans. For one of the beers that got pushed back also, which is going to be called our Invasion IPA, Tyler had to get a specialty yeast strain in. So like Tyler was saying, there's a lot of pieces that have to align timing-wise. Yeast has a very specific shelf life, so he kind of orders it right as he needs it for something like that. Getting the cans in. Aside from the federal label approval, we also have to send label approval to each state. So I have Connecticut, our attorney files with New Hampshire and price posting for Massachusetts, and we're in 10 states now, so there's a lot of other little bits and pieces that kind of have to fall in line. So the big thing was some of our brews got delayed, and our new variety packs that are coming out, one of the beers in that, we were waiting for label approval. So we just had to push our schedule back by a few weeks. Mostly just the pushback in schedule. I mean, if beer's not on the shelf, you can't sell it. So we're still kind of catching up now to our schedule. So the guys have definitely had a few slow weeks. It was January, which is always a slower time in this industry. But definitely, we're a little behind schedule. So,
and that's something too, like you mentioned, a slower time in the industry. I mean, that's something where in the brew schedule, it's nice to like, hey, we're coming out with something special for the springtime so we can brew it, because beer takes time. Like on the quickest turnaround possible is a 2-week time. And you add dry hopping or you add lagering, so it gives us those spring releases are kind of what we're brewing in the slow time to have, because the core beers aren't selling as much. And then, but then on the, like looking at the year as a whole, if those spring releases get pushed back a couple months, that might affect the sale of our summer release because the spring ones might still be on the shelf. So it's kind of, we don't even know the full impact yet because it's because beer takes time. It takes time to make, it takes time to get to the distributor, it takes time to get on the shelf, it takes time to get sold. So I mean, we're talking these 2 weeks could affect 6 months worth of sales down the road. Again, we don't know that number yet until they actually happen. Because we have all the orders for our summer seasonal. If people start lowering the requested because the spring seasonal is still on the shelf, we'll find that out in another month or two. So it's an interesting thing where it's hard to wrap a number around it because it is just messing up this plan that we have set in place for the year. I mean, it knocks over a lot of dominoes that can't be unknocked. So we just don't know how far those dominoes are going to fall.
Well, we have been planning further ahead now as a result. So we have all our labels for 2019 submitted, or at least the ones that we think we're going to make. We just, sometimes we have a few beers and we're like, hey, this would be great, and then we throw it in the mix. So we're trying to do that. Stop with last minute changes. But
Can't stop me.
Beer is fun. It has to be fun. So the core stuff we do in advance, and a lot of those are set. We have printed cans, and then we do a lot of stuff for charities as well. So we're doing a charity beer for a fundraiser for a 5K. We do a lot of stuff for like Connecticut Children's Medical and like pet adoption stuff, and sometimes we'll do small batch stuff. So we just that's where we throw stuff in. We had some specialty beers for Extreme Beer Fest up in Boston, and that's where we do smaller batches where we really want to get creative. So those are where your last minute registrations come in. And being a small brewery, we have some pretty big tanks, not big compared to like a big brewery, but we also have some really small tanks, which allows these guys to have fun. So that's, but we are getting more organized, and and we'll still have the small stuff pop up because that's how we roll.
Yeah, and I mean that's where the beer industry is right now too. Is that walking in and ordering the beer you always have, like, is few and far between now because everyone's first word they walk into a bar or a package store, it's like, hey, what's new? What haven't I tried before? So we're always having to like come up with a new recipe, a new label, and then that so we have to have that whole thing happen, and so that's just kind of the factor of the flagship February was kind of a nice push that people were doing because it's kind of bringing people back to like, hey, there's some beers out there that are awesome you've had before, try them again. But just where the beer culture is right now, which I love. I come from a brew pub background, and being able to make a different beer every month is great. But on a production side of it, labels and approvals and all this, and having that whole thing happen is a whole nother animal for sure. My big thing is beer is just opening the can and drinking it. There's like, beer is a food, but it's a chemistry experiment where you're like the yeast is doing all the work, converting sugar to alcohol. Like there's stuff that happens along the way that takes time, and you can't be rushed. I mean, you can't rush a single cell organism. It does what it does, and you want it to do what it does consistently every time. Beer is an art. Beer is a science. Beer is also a business. So it's like it has a mixture of all of it in there. But the time frame is really the big thing where it's like, yeah, why are they ahead of it? It's like you can only be ahead of so many things, and you can be ahead of those core ones because those are already done. But the one-off stuff, and it's something maybe, hey, you're making a new beer. You've never tried this yeast before, whatever. All of a sudden it ferments out 4 or 5 days earlier. You're like, oh, I can package this, but the cans aren't in yet because the delay. So it's like this. So that holds back one of your core beers. So it's just kind of there's a lot of balls in the air at all times.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, a lot of balls in the air at all times on the production side of it because you're basically dealing with yeast. It's its own organism. It has to do what it has to do. Sometimes it performs exactly how you want it. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes it's a little shorter. So it's an always evolving thing that you have to play with on the production side and keeping the schedule as tight as you can around all the other stuff that's happening with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, bigger breweries that I've talked to, they have a full marketing team, and right now, I mean, we're like we do have some employees, but we all wear many hats. So Tyler handles a lot of our social media. I sometimes make and design some of our beer labels. We also have an artist that we work with. but I also am dealing with a lot of sales, registration, everything, and I order all of our cans and different products. Tyler's ordering yeast and hops, and these bigger companies, they are a little bit, they kind of strategize more, and they have a lot bigger staff handling this stuff, so they're more ahead of it. Whereas a lot of times we just think of something on the fly and we run with it, which is cool and a lot of fun. But in this situation with the government shutdown, it definitely definitely cramps our style a little bit. Drink to the hog. Keep a lookout for our new variety packs hitting stores next month. Lots of fun stuff in it. The brewer's choice here is whatever Tyler feels like. And then we have our new Black Hog IPA, which I've been drinking way too much of. So it's really delicious.
Yes, it's
so
really delicious.
These guys did a great job. So when they make fantastic beer, it makes my job easy. So
yeah. So my last word. I mean, just my last word. Just kind of think about what went into your beer while you're drinking it. It's not. Just kind of think about the flavors you're enjoying. Think about the process that went into it, the multiple hands of people who brewed it, packaged it, shipped it, got it to you. So there's beer is a very big world of employment for the state for sure, but it is a craft, it is an art that you have to train and learn about and respect the craft is more than respecting the art that went into making the liquid for sure. So.